What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. On today's episode, we're going to talk another update that's come down about Lonzo Ball, just kind of adding a little bit of clarity to it. And we're going to actually talk about why Lonzo Ball being out may be the best time for Billy Donovan and the coaching staff to develop certain parts of other players' games. We'll get into all that, plus Rober Sarver selling the Suns right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
All right, Bulls fans. So we all got the news that I think a lot of us were expecting yesterday. We dropped a video on it. We talked about it. And that's Lonzo Ball having another surgery. And, you know, the timeline, they said he'll be reevaluated in 4 to 6 weeks. Well, Dr. Evan Jeffries has come out. He's the owner of Evolving Motion Physical Therapy and sports injury therapist. And he says this, that it's more than likely going to take longer than 6 weeks for Lonzo Ball to return. Can't rush him back and risk it being aggravated again. So we already know Lonzo Ball seems to be a player that heals more slowly than the projected timeline anyway. We could be looking at Lonzo Ball not being back ready by January. Now, that's just kind of, it is what it is at this point. We've had the conversation on who steps up, what the style of play is going to be, who's going to be that starting point guard. Is it going to be Ayo? Is it going to be Caruso? Is it going to be Goran Dragic? There's an argument to really be made for all of them. For Ayo, it's very well that he stepped up. He's a young player. He can offer some offense and defensive versatility. It could be Alex Caruso, who is the defensive lockdown player that he is. He's a veteran. He comes in and do some things. And then there's an argument also that people are making for Goran Dragic. While I don't subscribe to it, but the argument for Goran Dragic, he's a veteran. He can come in. He can play a role. He can run a team. Even though his defense is slipping a lot over the last part of his season, that is why I think you go with Ayo or Caruso. I think Ayo is going to be the better fit there. Because Goran Dragic, yeah, you put him in a lineup with Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, you need more defense on that, and Nikola Vucevic, you need more defense on that lineup. Part of the reason the Bulls' defense did fail at times is that the guards were getting blown by and putting their bigs in awkward positions. So I do think looking at what Ayo did defensively and Caruso, but I'm putting my money on Ayo Dosunmu. Now, one of the reasons as well that I want to talk about why it's not all doom and gloom. I'm not saying that nobody, let's be clear, nobody on this roster replicates exactly what Lonzo Ball gives you. It's going to be point guard by committee. Nobody gives you the shooting he gives you. Nobody gets you the defense he gives you. Combine the pushing out in transition, the fast break, things like that, the court vision. It's not any one player on the Chicago Bulls team that gives you all of those things that Lonzo Ball gives you. Now, I do think that this team is in a position to where they can and will, right? They'll have to figure it out and weather the storm while it's going out. Now, one thing that could be said, I think a lot of being made is what point guard do we see come in here and play and step up? But the one thing that we can use this time to develop is one of the things that me, Wynton Mahorn, a couple of other fans in the chat that have been saying is this gives you an opportunity to possibly develop the point forward skills of a Patrick Williams. Now, I'm not saying you come into the season and you let him completely run the offense or anything like that. You want to develop, but you can use more of those opportunities. We know that we've barely scratched the surface of Ayo Dosunmu's offensive game. And you still do want to see Ayo develop that point guardsmanship. Shout out to Big Dave on that one. And the way that he runs a team, that his court vision, his passing, things like that. But one thing that we've always seen with Patrick Williams, when he's the most dangerous, is when he has the balls in his. Oh, wow. That was a pause moment. When he has the ball in his hands, is at the times where we've seen Patrick Williams be more dangerous, is that he does have that point forward ability. And so if you develop that, it really does free up kind of what else you need out there. And yeah, DeMar's still going to do a lot of the ball handling. Zach's still going to do a lot of the ball handling. But in a sense, I understand the thought and idea of, hey, you have veterans in Alex Caruso and Goran Dragic. Maybe you go to them to run the point guard. But as we're trying to develop more things of Patrick Williams' game and a season that if he comes into, and this is on him as well, if he comes into training camp showing that he has the ability to be ready to do that, if he's showing that aggressive, if he's showing, hey, yeah, let's play a little bit more things through Patrick Williams, I think it opens up this Bulls team and it puts you in a better situation in the long term if you use this opportunity to try to start developing those skills of Patrick Williams that seem to already be there. We've seen the surface of it. We haven't really gotten to see it at a high level. at a high usage rate, we haven't really gotten to see it. We talked about it here. Patrick Williams has only had 18 games in his NBA career in which he's had double-digit shot attempts. But this isn't even about the shot attempts, right? This isn't about that. I do think that Patrick Williams has been a little bit more aggressive when you do that type of thing. But I'm more so saying you let him do some of the half-court offense type things. You let Zach play off the ball. You let DeMar play off the ball. You even, if Ayo is that play, and it works with either Ayo, Alex Caruso, or Goran Dragic, if you start developing that with Patrick Williams. And my thought process behind that is this, is that with Goran Dragic, him being able to come off screens and pin downs, we know the shooting ability that he does have. He's not really the break down somebody off the dribble type point guard. So when you allow him to play more off the ball, as we saw him do in Miami. Keep in mind, Jimmy Butler did a lot of the ball handling down there in Miami. When you allow Goran Dragic to play off the ball, he is a more dangerous scorer. In the bubble, Goran Dragic averaged 19.9 points per game because of things like that. He was starting as well. So it can open up that part of the game. When you look at Ayo Dosunmu, him being able to, the defensive player that he is, being able to come back, not have to handle a lot of the ball handling, coming off screens as well, working on the shot, getting more of that Illinois type Ayo Dosunmu that we saw. I like the idea and the thought and the concept behind it. Now it takes a lot for it to come to fruition. I'm not saying this is going to be this automatic thing where you just flip a switch and all of a sudden Patrick Williams is this great point forward, but maybe, just maybe, you allow this time through training camp, through preseason, to see what Patrick Williams can give you in doing more of the running of the offense as a point forward. And then you kind of play off that. You maybe make your determination off that. Alex Caruso also last season was one of our best players off the ball as far as moving without the ball, things like that. So it's just a thought process. I'm not saying that it's like this fully formed idea that it's like, hey, you should absolutely freaking do this. But you guys know I'm very high on the fact that I do think that Ayo Dosunmu should be the starting point guard for the Chicago Bulls in the next season. That's just my personal opinion. That's something that I think. But I can honestly admit too that I can see the other things that people say and see, like they want to see Goran Dragic or they want to see Alex Caruso. There's a lot of different options that the Chicago Bulls do have, and they're going to figure it out. They're going to use training camp to figure it out. Ayo Dosunmu's been putting in tons of work this offseason. I do think he's going to be poised and ready to go. And also, and the only thing that I disagree with is this, there's some very few, right? This is not a huge community, but a very small part of the Bulls community is that's like artificially limit Ayo so you don't have to pay him as much. No, you don't do that. You don't do that. You get out here, you put him in the best situation. If he ends up being the one that gives you the best situation to win, you put him out there, you let him work it out, you let him figure it out. And I do think that that's the route that the Bulls are going to go. But hopefully, just hopefully, we start seeing, as I've been saying, the one thing that I want to see from the coaching staff and Billy Donovan specifically is just a little bit better usage of players and their specific skills. And that is something that we do want to see. It bodes well for the future of Patrick Williams. It bodes well for getting him and teaching him to be more aggressive by him having the ball in his hands, having to be the one to make certain decisions. Again, I'm not saying you rely your whole offense and all of a sudden we're just this team that runs everything through Patrick Williams, but it allows you, I think, to develop that part of his game. But let me know what you guys think about that one down below. But again, making the case for Ayo Dosunmu. But one thing that we did get out, Daniel Greenberg tweeted this, and this was afterwards. This is something bright side after the Lonzo Ball news. It says, I'm told that Zach LaVine has added several things to his game this offseason and has looked really good in scrimmages. A player that has seen Zach train this offseason tells me that he finally feels like he's 100% healthy. Now, a fully healthy Zach LaVine has been a dangerous player offensively. I've said that I want to see him take that step up defensively. Not to be all of a sudden a lockdown defender or anything like that, but just to improve that defensive rating. When Zach LaVine was out there with Lonzo Ball, he had one of the highest defensive ratings of his career during that stretch of time. Now, we didn't get to see a lot of that in Zach being fully healthy, but there is a really good defender in Zach LaVine. We've seen it in stretches. We've seen it on possessions. We've seen it. Hopefully he takes that step up, but having a fully locked and loaded Zach LaVine, do not be surprised to see Zach LaVine average 28 or 29 points per game on high efficiency as he always has done, and finally be that 50, 40, 90 player over the course of a full season, not just a stretch. But Zach LaVine stepping his game up big time, as well as development of other players, are going to help us over the course of the season, especially help us while we're waiting on Lonzo Ball to get fully healthy and this team to be a fully healthy basketball team. So hopefully those things continue. And yeah, it's good to hear that Zach LaVine is making steps. He's adding things to his game. That's what you want to see from a $215 million player. And Zach LaVine doesn't take the contract as something like, I finally got my money, I'm good. He's taking it as saying, hey, I need to step up. I need to live up to this contract. I have to step myself up to live up to this every single day. And I hope we continue to see that from Zach LaVine as this team continues to be built around him. And he's going to be here for a very long time. So hopefully we do see that in that continued development for Zach LaVine next season. Now, before we go, with the thing, I am going to talk a little bit about the Rober Sarver thing. I'm going to touch on that briefly towards the end. But a lot of the Ayo Dosunmu, Drew Holiday comparisons, I've always said, hey, let's not go into that a little bit too much. But last night on Locked on Bulls when we were streaming, I uncovered something that I wanted to see. So Drew Holiday's, for example, his rookie year, he played 73 games, 51 games played, 44% shooting from the field, 39% shooting from three, 2.6 rebounds, 3.8 assists, 8 points per game. Ayo Dosunmu's rookie season, this is weird. 77 games played, 40 starts, 52% shooting from the field, 37% from three-point range, 2.8 rebounds, 3.3 assists, and 8.8 points per game. Now, Drew Holiday in his second season stepped up. He came into a team that had Allen Iverson and Andre Iguodala. Iverson was gone by that second season. He stepped it up. He averaged 14 points per game, 6 assists, and 4 rebounds, and started all 82 games. While we're looking at Ayo Dosunmu possibly being that starting point guard for the Chicago Bulls this season, I would love to see an increase like this for Ayo Dosunmu and him to continue that. Listen, I just can't wait to see what the player Ayo Dosunmu. I'm very high on Ayo Dosunmu as a player, as I'm sure most of you guys know by now. And I hope that this continues and just Ayo Dosunmu just continues to show everything. And PER, again, Drew Holiday's PER his rookie season, 12.36. Ayo Dosunmu's PER his rookie season, 11.23. They are very similar players. Even the usage rate. Drew Holiday actually had a higher usage rate at 18.5. Ayo Dosunmu last season, 14.5. So there's enough to point to that, right? And if in this time that Ayo Dosunmu may be the starting point guard for the Chicago Bulls, we truly see that Drew Holiday comparisons come more to light and to truth, I think we're going to be okay waiting on Lonzo Ball to come back. And Lonzo, listen, when any player that's going to be out as long, at this point when he comes back, he'll be out of basketball for about 10 or 11 months. When he does come back, he's going to initially come off the bench. And Ayo's still going to be starting. Now, I do expect Lonzo to take that starting point guard role back. I want him to. But this is a good time to develop certain things in Ayo Dosunmu to really see what we have in him. And he's in a prime position before he has to sign a contract extension this summer. So all good things there. But let's talk about this Rober Sarver nonsense. So as we said, once PayPal threatened to pull out, we knew that this team was going to be sold. I said and speculated that once you start affecting the money, things start changing. While the NBA did not take away Rober Sarver's team, the money did make it have to be that Rober Sarver sold the team. So he announced yesterday he will be selling the Phoenix Suns and Phoenix Mercury, and he came out with this. Words that I deeply regret now overshadow nearly 2 decades of building organizations that brought people together and strengthened the Phoenix area. Through the unifying power of professionals, men's and women's basketball. As a man of faith, I believe in atonement and the path to forgiveness. I expected that the commissioner's 1-year suspension would provide that time for me to focus, make amends, and remove my personal controversy from the teams that I and so many fans have come to love. But in our current unforgiving climate, it's become painfully clear that it is no longer possible that whatever good I have done or still could do. Listen, I don't care. At the end of the day, you sold the team because you were an idiot and you did something that was wrong. You got proven to make racist type comments and to be a bigot and a misogynist, and you own a women's and men's basketball team. It's time. It was, the writing was on the wall. The culture at this point, right? As far as PayPal pulling out everything, your own minority owners, they wanted you out. They wanted Rober Sarver out. They didn't want to associate that. In this day and age, you can blame it on cancel culture. You can try to blame that all you want, but at the end of the day, it came back to your actions and what you did. So Rober Sarver selling the team is the best thing for everybody involved. It's the best thing for the players. And hopefully, the Phoenix Suns have been a team that haven't liked to spend a lot of money, even though they're on the precipice of being a championship team. You hear them trying to sell away Jay Crowder, things like that. This team, and it's going to be a while. It's not going to be anything that I don't think you're going to hear a new owner announce tomorrow. But once it is happening, you may get an owner in there now, if you're a Phoenix Suns fans, that is willing to spend more money to keep this team together. So we'll see how it works out. At the end of the day, this is what I thought, and I said it in my initial video about Rober Sarver. It is what it is. It's going to be what it's going to be. And I definitely thought that he was going to be at some point forced to sell a team because of the money that was going to be infected. And that's exactly what happened. Let me know what you guys think of everything down below. Make sure you're following the show at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text and a voicemail to sound off about this, Lonzo, anything else, who do you think steps up? What do you think about developing Patrick Williams and his point forward skills over the course of this time of Lonzo Ball being out? Let me know all that down below, and you can also send that voicemail in 773-270-2799. Thank you for being the best part of Chicago Bulls Central. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.